Let's remind ourselves of the top half of the draw. Spain versus Georgia, Germany versus Denmark, Portugal versus Slovenia, France versus Belgium. And while we're here, why not the bottom half as well? Romania, Netherlands, Austria, Turkey, England, Slovakia, Switzerland, Italy. So, gentlemen, I believe the common thinking now is that England are in the better half of the draw.
Again?
Which I'm not sure if I wanted or not. As one or two people were saying at our watch-along, I'd rather go out on a battling performance to Germany than be beaten by Slovakia on penalties. You know?
How things have returned to exactly how they used to be.
No, but you're saying that, Marcus, but I mean, going out to Slovakia on penalties would very much be a classic.
Yeah.
It would be a return. For those traditionalists among us, that would actually be quite enjoyable.
It would be memorable.
Yeah. It would be one for the rest of the UK. But anyway.
This has got, I mean, England's one's got 0-0 written all over it.
Let's talk about the top half of the draw where Pat recorded
Where they're actually playing football.
Spain versus Georgia.
Spain
Nice
versus
one.
Georgia, that is absolute appointment viewing at this point.
Yeah, 100%.
Forget the bear.
Yep.
That is the prestige telly that is happening anytime soon.
That's on 8 p.m. after the England game, right?
Hopefully.
That'll be a good way to pick
It's going
yourself
to be
up.
fantastic.
Yeah, you're like, are we watching this on double speed? No.
I will feel like that. I've got a lot of love for Georgia, not just because they've enabled England to avoid Netherlands.
St George's crosses, though.
But the St George's crosses are important.
No other reason
to
necessary.
you and to me as well, but mostly to Andy. He's very patriotic.
I love that the badge. We've got to talk about the badge.
Yeah, the badge
It's
is
St
great as well.
George on a horse slaying a dragon.
St George was Turkish, wasn't he? So obviously Andy would be well into that.
Well, he's from modern day. Indeed, Andy, it's all there. He's from modern day Turkey at the time. I don't think
Yeah.
I think he very much thought he was English.
But they've basically what George's flag and crest have done is they've done all the stuff that England can't get away with.
Yeah.
You've gone too far there with the horse.
But the funny thing is, though, you think about. I know that he's patron saint all over the place. I won't get into the reasons why and so on. But like on the Milan kit and the Barcelona kit. But it is odd how Georgia. I mean, the country's named Georgia, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's like that seems a little bit more authentic. Anyway, I don't know.
But what's interesting about this game is that Georgia are playing absolutely with no fear whatsoever because they're a team that they're very happy to have qualified. They've obviously to go through the group is massive for them. You saw their celebrations. You saw how much it meant to them. I'm not saying I don't want to patronise them by suggesting that every game is now a free hit, but they're not going to be fancy to beat Spain.
No.
So they can play with an element of freedom. And we saw against Portugal, who aren't Spain. They're different for a number of different reasons, but they can hurt teams, and they caught Portugal really cold.
Portugal B.
But they still caught them cold. I mean,
Portugal B is still really good.
But they're still going to use that game plan for Spain A, aren't they?
Yeah, and also
they are.
Portugal were being touted by loads of people before the tournament as having the best squad.
Well, I actually agree with that.
So it does count for something.
It does, Andy, doesn't it?
Do you think they've got a chance against Spain, Andy?
A small chance, but a chance. I think, funnily enough, you'd probably prefer Kvaratskhelia or Mikhail to Morata at the moment. That is the one thing you can say, actually, because they're in far better form than him. You never know what you're going to get with him.
What about Rodri?
And they're totally reliant on Morata for the goals. I mean, we've seen like the best performance of the tournament by some distance was Spain against Italy. They were outstanding. They still needed an own goal to win the game. We're defending it out at the end. Yeah. So I think that's what you're telling yourself if you're Georgia, as well as the fact, as Pete was saying yesterday, outstanding goalkeeper in the tournament.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, with Spain, the way they've gone at teams. I mean, obviously 3 clean sheets. It's impressive stuff. But as Jim said, I mean, Georgia may well leave the back door open as they tend to do, but they're going to fly forward. They do have the highest XG against them, Georgia. Now, I know people don't like XG.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
But so they can be got at, is what I'm saying. And lest we forget when they played Czech Republic, they were kind of hanging on. So you think that Spain would kind of pin them back. It's a case of can they defend? But if Mamardashvili has a great game and that Kvaratskhelia gets an early goal. I mean, you talked about that yesterday. I think when Kvaradona scored, it might well be my moment of the tournament. It was absolutely wonderful. So all eyes on that one. It's going to be great. But Germany-Denmark, I feel like this is a classic Euros fixture, but then when I sort of rifle through it back in my mind, I'm probably just thinking of Euro 92, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that adds to it, doesn't it? Of course, it's part of the legend, and that's fair enough. I mean, I heard a couple of days ago a German reporter explaining how it's such a miserable bit of his childhood because he lived, I think, in Kiel. So
Right to the Danish border.
North, yeah, which is there. And he's like, he just saw Danes every day for the next 4 years, just laughing at you about it.
But you'd expect Germany, given how they've started the tournament, and despite people trying to give it the old, have they peaked too early?
Yeah.
No.
You'd expect them to dispatch Denmark pretty easily. I think
Denmark will take a little bit of encouragement from Switzerland's performance against Germany.
Yeah, I don't think Denmark are as good as Switzerland.
No, they're not. And Switzerland look like they can find a way to score goals. It doesn't feel like that's
Denmark
happening
scored
for
against
Denmark
England,
at all.
Andy. That's how good they are.
Yeah,
All right?
I suppose.
No one else
Dominating
is doing it.
England.
They've
stand
used up
corrected.
that lightning strike, though, haven't
Has
they?
it got to the point now where you don't even take confidence from dominating England? It's just, what do you expect from us?
I will just, if Denmark, if you're listening, shoot on sight. Okay, you get a chance. You've seen what you can do on that. The other game, the other two games, Portugal versus Slovenia. Portugal heavy favourite. Surely that will be a Portuguese win. You would think. France v Belgium. It's probably the tie of the round.
The only two teams really that haven't got something a game you'd easily expect them to win are France and Italy, I would say.
Really?
So Belgium, who haven't looked amazing, are still obviously very capable.
Yeah.
And France have found it really difficult. To
Score?
to impose themselves and score. It's kind of interesting how many teams are finding it hard to score. I mean, England, Belgium, Spain. France, they're not. A lot of teams don't seem to have fully fired yet.
I guess the thing is, when you look at England and France, it's more complicated to explain, particularly with France. Now, if you look at like a lot of the parallels between France and England, not just being joint favourites before the tournament, but having a lot of the similar problems going into the tournament, and then both of their coaches getting an absolute beating at home at the moment for having squads that anyone would dream of that aren't playing particularly good football at the moment. The one thing I would say about France is you feel that the click is closer.
Right.
Because actually...
How click is it? Can you hear it? Can you hear the click? Is it coming closer?
Well, I can't hear very well out my right ear.
You can't hear a click until it clicks.
Clicks, exactly, yeah, exactly.
I think that the thing is, France have created enough opportunities in all of their games to have won all those games comfortably without playing that well. And there's a sense of a plan. Okay, it's a boring plan and people at home don't like it, but it's still a plan.
Finals,
they know what they're doing.
Well, I agree, and on the sort of comment about maybe Spain not scoring that much, I mean, they scored 5 goals in the 3 games without reply. They were already through in the third game. I mean, against
Italy,
Italy,
not conceded as well.
Exactly, Jim. And in that the game against Italy, on another day they win 3 or 4. So again, are you creating the opportunity? Yes, they are.
I think Lukaku's disallowed hat trick is a factor as well, isn't it? They're obviously
3 goals. It would have been.
They don't count, do they? But they were all pretty marginal.
They weren't a hat trick.
No, but I mean across the game.
A hat trick of disallowed goals.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean,
I just think strikers out there are going to be going, I've got a hat trick last month.
I don't know that they listen to me that closely. I think we'll be all right. But yeah, just to clarify, the 3 disallowed goals he scored across the games were all fairly marginal. So it's not like they're looking like completely devoid of any ideas up top, is it? I just think whoever gets to the final from this side is going to have arrows sticking out of them, a 1,000-yard stare.
Either that or they're going to be battle tested, really battle hard.
Totally. It's the harder route, isn't it?
And you're right to say that, because some schools of thought always say, well, I don't really care. You've got to beat the good teams on the way, so it doesn't matter. It does matter who you get. It absolutely does, because take Argentina in the last World Cup. They were spared of a semi-final against Brazil. That game
would have taken it out of them. You can't imagine. I know France paid them back, but for 70 minutes in that final against France, it was unbelievably good. And obviously they needed to win it on penalties. But it's a totally different thing. Winning 3-0 against a Croatia side who were pretty tired after going all the way. They've rushed them aside, really. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a lovely old job. You're then fresh, you're more confident for the final, and it showed for the majority of that performance. You take Italy in the last Euros. They had a tricky route to the final. I mean, they beat Austria, I think, was it after extra time? Anyway, they beat Austria.
It was.
Yeah, they beat Belgium, who are a decent side.
Spain on pens.
Yeah, but then the last 2 games, and they got the job done, so absolutely no criticism, but they squeezed past Spain, and Spain would have felt they probably should have won that.
Yeah.
And then they beat England on penalties. So in the last 2 games, it wasn't as free-flowing maybe, or scoring a few goals like it was previously, but they got the job done. But you saw them, against better opposition, fine, but it's not easy to sort of raise yourself for the next game. As Italy showed, it can be done. But the idea that, I mean, you know, whichever one of those sides, I mean, let's take Spain for example. I mean, if Spain want to go and win this thing, they're going to beat Georgia, then Germany, then Portugal, perhaps, or maybe France, maybe even Belgium, a big side, and then
Slovakia.
The final. Yeah, exactly, and then Austria. You know, and that is tough. It can be done. But
it will be done by someone.
Not necessarily in the top half of the draw. It could be someone.
But they will get to the final, won't they?
One of them will.
Yeah, it has to happen.
And in the bottom half of the draw, England find themselves. Has that changed who you think may win the tournament?
A little bit. The top half of the draw is basically like Glastonbury Festival, and the bottom half is like some kind of tribute act festival in a pub round the corner.
Which year Glastonbury?
Yeah, good point.
You do need to clarify nowadays. Yeah. But so, Andy, you said it has changed. Who you think might win it?
Yeah, it has.
You thinking Turkey?
I think, you know, it is an open road for England. I wonder if the semi-finals might be the limit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Would you take that now?
One particular team
that has traditionally been the case
in the semi-finals might be the limit. And I think Germany might do it now. Actually,
I feel the same.
Which I didn't before. I just feel that for everything I've said about the potential for France to get better, there's a bit of unease in the camp. There's a bit of a sense of well, it is compared to, you know, we're talking about 2010 really, aren't we? The last time that there was
what we wanted.
A different generation. Yeah. Whereas I think there were just a few too many things slightly off for them to. They still could win it. I wouldn't be shocked if they did win it, but I feel
it's difficult to call.
Germany.
I mean, in the last Euros again, the winner obviously was from the top half of the draw, which was Italy. But unless England could have done something, again, that's where the quality was. I mean, the teams in the bottom half, Jim, it's Romania, Netherlands, obviously Austria, Turkey, England, Slovakia, Switzerland, Italy. Would you fancy it? Because again, you know, if a side comes through there and they're playing a side who have, you know, had to go through the ringer to get it, I mean, looking at the sides in the bottom, who do you think are the most likely?
I think actually, given that the Netherlands have been a bit all over the shop, I would think it's Switzerland and Italy look the two that actually might have the most about them there. Because obviously you've got Romania and Austria as probably the hipster choices, Turkey as well. England, I just don't know that they've got it in them to sort of keep levelling up, for want of a better term, as they're going to need to through the rounds. Switzerland, obviously, you know, we joked before the tournament that like, it'd be really boring if they won it, but they are really good at getting to a certain point. They'll be thinking exactly the same thing that England are about, being on this side of the draw. So if they can overcome Italy, they'll fancy that as well. I
mean, it's funny with Italy because, as I say, in Italy they've not been infused at all by the performances.
Hasn't that been the case every time they've ever won anything? Is that not in its own weird way a reason to be quite
positive?
Possibly.
I think they are a bit down on this team and what they may do. However, they will be very, very pleased with this draw. And I was talking to a couple of Italian guys who I play football with the other night, and they were saying, well, against Croatia, we knew that we could always score until the final whistle, even though they weren't really creating anything. And I said, why is that?
Easy to say after
and he
the game,
said, no. He said,
that's a real leap of faith. That.
Well, he said, because we've done it before.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Why, as England fans, are we all going crazy after the first game? Well, the evidence is there because, what's happened before? But he's talking from a point of view of, well, we won the last Euros. Do you know what I mean? We actually managed to bring something out of the fire when we needed to. We've won the World Cup in my recent memory.
What Jim touched on yesterday about there being just an emotional reaction, an unbelievably unreasonable reaction from, say, England fans to England performances. It's like that in every country.
No, of course it is. We could sometimes harsh on ourselves, but they're sitting on a much more better and successful footballing history.
Yeah, but you're talking about anecdotal evidence from two people, whereas in general...
They do speak on behalf of Italy, they told me.
Yeah, of course. In general, you know, Italians... and the Italian media are very, very unhappy. If you look at the same in France, for example, and they have been, as you say, they have been through it before, where Italy and France being shit in the groups and getting it done in the knockouts is something they can do. But it doesn't mean they feel any less tense or upset about it.
Well, look, it's it's all taken shape, and as we say with England, I mean, it is the plum side of the draw. England have a Big Mummy away has been kind to England again.
Yeah.
England against Slovakia. I mean, my goodness, you would take that. Now, a former Slovakia player has said that England at this tournament look really miserable. We want to play them, and a number of them have come out and gone, actually, we're fine. We want to play England now. They're going to say that, but if you're Slovakian, you'd think, bloody hell, lads. Yeah, nothing that we've seen at this tournament that worries us.
The most accurate thing you said, Marcus, in this tournament so far is the fact that teams have felt brave enough to call England's bluff.
Yeah.
And Slovakia the slight difference in approach will obviously be dictated by the idea this is now knockout football, right? Mm-hmm. If Slovakia were playing England in the first group game, they would presumably approach it quite differently because they would not know what England have been like, and they would also understand there's a couple of games to go after this one. So it's different for that reason. What's really interesting to me is, before I just go on to England, I think Austria have been the standout side in this bottom half of this draw.
They have.
The question mark over them will be whether they can maintain the energy levels throughout, right?
Yes. It's a big ask to ask them to press that through the whole tournament.
Interestingly, though, if they get past Turkey, they could play Netherlands again in the quarterfinals.
It's funny that, isn't it?
Which was a bit of a life or death for them, and they come out on the right side of it. And the reason I sort of isolating that particular possibility is because what I was so impressed about with Austria against Netherlands is they could just keep going back to the well and keep responding, and the reaction was amazing. And I think it's easier to do that in the group stage than it would be maybe in the semi-final or a quarter-final. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. On the England side of it, I mean, a quirk of fate has meant England are now playing a team that are ranked at about 50th, and rather than Netherlands, who are ranked far higher than that. So that's a great development for us. To me, it feels like they'll find a way of getting past Slovakia, and it might come unstuck against Switzerland or Italy, who both look obviously they're much better teams than Slovakia. But here's the thing that I find interesting as a thought exercise, right? If England were playing Slovakia in a qualifier, you probably wouldn't spend 5 minutes thinking about it. In a tournament knockout game, based on what we've just seen come behind us, it just feels difficult.
But it's not because it's a tournament knockout game, is it? It's because of the shape that England are in at the moment and the national mood around it.
I do think, with the comments from the Slovakia players about wanting to play England, and everyone in England looking at that going, yeah, fair enough, really. That is an opportunity surely for the players to use that as fuel that is separate from trying to prove the doubters at home wrong. Focus it on the opposition and kickstart things that way. I don't know if Southgate would take that sort of approach. It seems kind of
they've also
to how he operates.
I know what you mean.
They've also found it straightforward, England, a lot in recent tournaments when they've played against bad or worse teams than them in the knockouts. They beat Ukraine easily. They beat Senegal pretty easily. I suppose you'd probably argue maybe Colombia wasn't quite like that.
But Sweden
they beat easily. So it could click into place. I feel like part of me, I think I might have mentioned this earlier in the week, but part of me feels like I would like England to have an opportunity in this tournament to play someone that is actually good, just to see what they're capable of. Because it may well be they get on the end of a terrible one, like in 2010 against Germany, and fine, and you go out. But I don't really want England to be knocked out in a stupid way without knowing what they're actually capable of.
Like Hodgson's England against Iceland.
Exactly, against a team that could attack them, and they can have a bit of a trade-off, a bit of a blow-for-blow type thing. So I hope they do get past the Slovakia for that reason, because I think if they were to play Italy, maybe they wouldn't even get that against Italy, because Italy would be too canny, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, what's the perception, Andy, of England in Germany and beyond? I mean, I can't imagine it's particularly good.
We're just really disappointed so far because, of course, people see these players
because they've got eyes.
But no, people see these players play every week and they expect more from them as much as the English public does. But I think when you look at it really, and when you talk, Jim was talking about their ability to step it up as the tournament that goes on. We've spent a lot of time talking about Gareth Southgate here, and in fact, if you go into Europe, it's not that dissimilar. And it's because of his demeanour as well. Because we talked about Didier Deschamps getting a beating back home in France, but he's like, fine. Call my football boring, I don't care.
He's won stuff.
And then he's won a World Cup, which obviously gives him a bit of latitude.
I don't think the criticism would be the same if Gareth Southgate won the World Cup of England in 2018.
Sure, but I think as well, that is a while ago now, and there's been plenty of things that have happened in the meantime to Didier Deschamps. His biggest ally in the FA is gone. He's got deteriorating relations, you would argue, with a couple of his key players. But yet he's there after they've drawn 0-0 with the Netherlands in a game they should have gotten beaten in, just having a laugh with Marcel Desailly on television. Can you imagine that Gareth Southgate doing that? And I think what you project is absolutely everything at this stage. But I think we've been talking so much about Southgate that I think a lot of the time we've skipped the obvious in that our two best players, the two players who we always thought could win the tournament for us in a country which is a touchstone for them in different ways, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, look out of shape. I don't know how you can fix that.
It's a tricky one.
I think that is the biggest problem. So we can talk about tactical imbalance, sorting out the left-hand side, can Southgate be more positive, all of those things. Unless, talking of using Luke's thing of going back to the well, unless Bellingham and Kane are able to do that, England have got a massive
It's a really
problem.
good point because it's very, very difficult to make an argument that despite all these other things going on, if your two best players aren't playing well, that's going to be a problem for any team.
And it's always talked about, because we tend to frame it like this as, because it matters so much as a matter of will. Well, what if Bellingham simply hasn't got anything left to give? And you look at Kane, who came off an injury that was way more serious than Bayern initially thought. When he came off in a Champions League semi-final at a point where they really didn't want to take him off. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel took the stick for that at the time. Didn't come back until the second half of the Bosnia game, where he wasn't expected to come back. And he obviously pulled rank and said, look, I have to play now. And people have accused him all through the groups of not wanting it enough and not making the runs. What if it's not there? What if it's not there?
If it's not there, then he shouldn't be being picked.
No, I know, but that happens at every World Cup and European Championships. Players who aren't fit enough go.
Well, I mean,
because it matters so much.
I mean, we are sort of pinning our hopes a little bit on the Euros from 3 years ago when Kane didn't really do too much in the groups. He came off in the first game late, very late on in the game, admittedly for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then in that second round match against Germany, gets his goal, and then suddenly we're up and running. I mean, look, talking about Deschamps, well, he has won the World Cup. I'm going to part ways with a lot of people at the moment with Southgate because he seems to have lost any kind of trust and credibility with England fans. I still think he's got a tiny bit of credit still in the bank for us to kind of go, all right, let's see what happens and kind of trust him.
Yeah, he's proven himself in knockout stages before.
He has. I mean, his knockout record for England, despite England not having won a trophy,
better than all the others put together.
Far better.
Yeah.
And so for that much, and also as well, what did I say immediately after that Serbia game? I said, this reminds me of Sven's England. Immediately, I'm talking about something that happened 20 years ago. And that's some of the one or two of the players weren't even born then. So, or perhaps they were just, Jude Bellingham's 20 years old. And, excuse me, immediately all these ghosts from the past are dragged up. Who by? Us.
Yeah.
The fans. And that's what we're doing. And we're projecting it onto the team. And
some people are projecting cups onto the team.
They are. So Southgate's got an awful lot to manage now. But it is on him to deliver, and the players
Definitely.
as well. So I'm not excusing the performances, by the way. I'm not saying it's going to be fine and rosy. I'm saying that this is the whole thing that's going on.
But these two things are related, Mark. Sorry to cut in, but these two things are related because what Andy's saying is true. So let's assume that what Andy's saying is true. Harry Kane's half fit and Jude Bellingham's cooked, right? Yeah. Then that lends itself over to what you're saying because if Gareth Southgate is truly going to be worthy of that credit he's still got in the bank, he needs to be strong enough to say, we're going to plan a different way. And we're going to plan a different way because these players can't perform. And in a way, it feels like an overthink because if they were so unfit or so injured they weren't even able to be picked, he would have to do that anyway. He would have to make a contingency and have to mitigate it and do something different. But
the performances tell you something, right?
The performances tell me that a combination of things. One, that for some reason they don't seem to want to play with any width or any tempo. And if it's because they can't, because he's picking Bellingham and Kane who aren't fit, or he's playing players out of position to mitigate other things, then he's obviously tied himself up in so many knots, then there's no hope for England anyway. And it also tells me that other teams feel confident enough to know how to nullify what England have to offer, because what England have to offer is so predictable.
Yeah.
And when people are crying out for a Gordon on the left, or I mean, we may even see Shaw in perhaps in the second round. We don't know.
We are discussing that is mad, by the way.
But we might. It doesn't even need to be Shaw. What it could be is someone who, because I mean, Vish was saying at the start of the week, Marcus, wasn't he, that he thinks Trippier's completely done anyway. Well,
I actually disagree with that. I think actually Trippier defensively has been pretty good, and I think Trippier's had a lot of flack.
But that's not answering the question about width, is it?
No, it's not. But the question about width can be answered in the form of Anthony Gordon, because England, I think what Southgate will do is England have been good defensively. Now, of course they have, because they've had so many players back there.
Yeah.
So it's not actually when people say England have been really good defensively, well, because the back four have had an enormous amount of protection.
It's like Pepe and his Porto pals at the Emirates. You can all be 41.
Exactly, Andy. So when we talk about England defensively, we have to recognise that, firstly, okay, they've not played anybody particularly great, although they've played sides who, they're there on merit, for crying out loud. But I think the answer with Trippier, it's been talking about his overlapping runs. You play Gordon, you don't need someone overlapping. Gordon can do it himself. You saw against Slovenia what happened. He got the ball and he looked at the fullback and went, I'm having you. No, he then kicked the ball out of play, I understand.
Yeah, but he had like a 4-minute cameo, didn't he?
He did.
He's going to try that.
Was it 4 minutes?
Again.
Was it, Jim?
Blimey.
Like okay. But the best passage of play was when Gordon cut inside. He plays a lovely ball that took out most of the Slovenia side, and then it ends up with Kane laying it off to Cole Palmer, and it wasn't put away. It was the best. It involved Gordon. Gordon provides the width, and if you have Gordon on that side, you don't need an overlapping fullback. So you can stay defensively solid.
Fine, I think that's right, and that's part of the reason I've been calling out for him to play for about 3 months.
Gordon has to play for me.
We did our teams.
Yes.
2 months out from
and
the
to be
Euros,
fair, mate,
and
you
I
had
called Gordon in the team, so I get all that.
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir there.
Yeah.
I think we can boil it down to a simple decision. It's a stick or twist scenario.
Sure.
Southgate can tell himself with Holland, they can sit down in one of their meetings, and Steve Holland is the tactical guy apparently. They can sit down and they can say one of two things. They can say, we're still here. We haven't looked particularly threatened. We've conceded one goal, which is from miles out. That can happen to anyone. We're doing fine. Let's carry on as we are. Or they can say, we need to twist now, because if we carry on like this, we're going to go out with a whimper. Yeah. And it just depends on what philosophy you stick with. Like which philosophy you subscribe to. You sit at a blackjack table and you sit there on 16. Some people stick. Yeah. Some people hit and get a 5. Yeah. Some people hit and get a 10 and they're out. It depends what you want to do.
Well, I think it's more likely.
You could be sitting there going, we're Portugal in 2016, couldn't you?
Well, I'd
exactly.
Bite all your limbs off for that.
And Anthony Gordon can't even ride a bike.
I was going to say,
fullback.
And will that be the instruction, Jim? If he's played on that wing, get on your bike, Anthony.
Yeah, but be more careful.
Yeah, he's fallen off the bike with they've got the motors in apparently.
Yeah,
just some cuts to his chin and his hands. He's okay.
He's actually got a big graze on his chin, which I think will be terrifying for the defender. It's like, I will get on my bike and I don't mind if I hurt myself. Yeah, so you are going to be in my slipstream.
It's like the most 90s working class kid injury ever. Yeah, like, over the handlebars of the bike, scratched your chin. As Big Pav said to me, where is he? Centre Parks? What's going on?
Esri Konsa was the first man on the scene apparently.
He's had a terrible time at Konsa. He's had cups thrown at him even though he's not even playing.
His family had cups thrown at him.
Yeah, and he's had to rescue an idiot.
Well, rescuing the idiot. I mean, he did say he laughed at him for a bit.
I'm not saying he'd done the job well.
I don't think it was a rescue dog in particular. But Konsa said, I think he pressed the wrong brake because back in England the brakes are on different sides. So the left is the back. I think he pressed the left and it was the front, and he just took off. He's fine. I think that will be the last time we go on the bike.
Are the brakes a different way around, or is it
sabotage? I ride into the office every time I come in, and the left brake is the back brake.
Yeah, so that's what I thought.
It might just be like driving on a different side of the road and stuff. But I think I sometimes think to myself, you are unquestionably a professional athlete.
Oh yeah,
the coordination should be decent.
I press both.
Yeah, press both. Yeah,
I mean, to me,
I want to do a big skid.
Yeah, the thing about Marcus is he will always do a skid.
Yeah.
One of the most entertaining parts of my childhood was there was a guy
listening to my band Skid Row.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't to you generally. The little parade of shops near where I lived had a butcher's on it, and the butcher was really grumpy. So every time we went past it on our bikes, we pulled big skids out front, and he'd come running out, and we'd try and cycle off before he could catch us.
Was his big knife?
Yeah, I don't think he was carrying a knife. Okay. I don't want to embellish the story.
Trying to rope you with a string of sausages.
Yeah, because a dog had one of them on his mouth. But I think perhaps Anthony's trying to show off there.
Yeah.
Perhaps a couple of Slovakia players were walking past, and he thought, "I'll show them what I'm capable of."
I mean,
is it not, took off in the words of Esri Konsa.
Is it not? He's simply so eager to get in the team that he's just leapt over the handlebars.
Yeah, into Southgate's arms.
Yeah,
left side, you say?
Yeah. Oh, do you reckon? I reckon it could be he's trying to impress Southgate, and as he did that, and all that commotion and all that noise happened, and Southgate just like slowly looked over the top of his newspaper. Just looked back, carried on reading again.
Hypothetically, if Foden doesn't start on Sunday, Anthony Gordon does a really good job, but Bellingham sort of underwhelms again. Does Foden come back in for Bellingham or for Gordon?
Now, I think that there could be an argument to frame it as resting Bellingham.
Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
Like when England when the UK rejoined the common market, when they rejoined the customs union, we'll call it something else.
Yeah.
Be fine. Just call it something else. No one will notice.
We were just resting from the EU.
Jude, did you say you were feeling your house rig earlier? He's like eating this. Like, no. You sure? I think you said you were feeling your house rig.
I think this is where you invoke the spirit of Sir Alex Ferguson, because he used to come up to some players and go, "You're not. Am I starting on Saturday? No. But it's Liverpool. No, I've got a bigger one. I've got something else.
No,
for you, son.
you say, Nicky Butt, pitches do good for you, son. It's not a game for you. That pitch looks amazing.
Yeah,
Wait till December when the pitches are bog, then we're having you in the middle of the park.
Don't you worry. There'll be other FA Cup finals.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in the second half, we've got the 2 games tomorrow, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany, Denmark, and some chat about Italian spying. See you in a moment.
What song would you listen to in the dressing room before a match?
It's a bit of a strange one, actually. I was telling my kids this the other day. So I'd normally get on the massage bed with Rod, and I'd actually put Susan Boyle on. So it's a bit strange. Wild Horses.
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know, it just helped me settle down, I think.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Now that we're all settled down, just with the mere thought of that.
Just to clarify, that is a Susan Boyle cover of Wild Horses.
Yeah. That was a massive hit, wasn't it? It was a massive hit.
Was it?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Wild Horses couldn't drag her away, actually.
Yeah. Couldn't drag Rooney off that massage bed. So much talk about that.
Wow.
So much talk about football in those areas now seems to be about massages. I don't know why.
What I love about Rooney is he's not dishing the dirt, but he's certainly telling stories about Terry and Lampard and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he'll stitch himself up.
Yeah, he don't care. Yeah, he's got no filter.
But I love it how he's laughing and joking. No, it was a bit of a strange one, but it did the job for me.
Yeah.
But a Subo. Or Subo, sorry.
Subo, yeah. Do you remember Subo's at Susan's album party, which ended up looking like on the hashtag.
It was Susan album party, wasn't it?
Yeah, it ended up looking like Sue's anal bum party.
Oh,
on the old hashtag marker.
Something very different.
I'll talk to you about that later.
Don't. Switzerland play Italy tomorrow at 5
Speaking of anal bum parties, Switzerland play Italy.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
No, not really.
Okay.
Cheap joke. Really.
It's they're getting the knockouts underway. Nice tie, Jim Campbell.
It is a nice tie.
Some of the Swiss speak Italian. They've got a bit in common. They both like chocolate.
Share a border.
So it's a big old chocolatey derby, isn't it?
Actually, that would be Switzerland-Belgium, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think so.
But
Nutella is just over the border.
It is.
So,
Yeah, do you remember you get those little things, Batchy, with the crushed nuts in? That's great chocolate.
Really?
Also,
Is that Swiss?
Someone who Batchy's from Perugia.
Okay, right.
Also,
Uncle in Hungarian.
Someone who played for Juventus once told me that once they left Juventus, they couldn't eat Nutella anywhere else because the quality is so inferior compared to how it is in Turin.
Huh. It must be the palm oil they use.
It's not Guinness. What are they going on about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Guinness. The thing with Guinness, though, here's the Guinness thing, which is a genius thing about them.
Yeah.
Is that you ever noticed if you have a lovely pint of Guinness, it's because it's great Guinness, right? If you have a bad pint of Guinness, it's never Guinness's fault. Is it?
It's right. Yeah. Do you know whose fault it is? Gareth Southgate.
No, but it's because Gareth Southgate's been too cautious. Yeah. It's always the pipes or the travelling or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
He may have served up good Guinness before.
I don't think
People
Gareth...
didn't
I think
realise
Gareth would do a good pint of Guinness because he's so fastidious with all the stuff. He'd
He'd let it settle, wouldn't he?
Details, man.
Yeah, he would,
You'd absolutely get it right. But this is a really sort of interesting tie because Switzerland have been really good.
They have.
You expect them to sort of fall short when they get to a point like this, but then obviously getting past France has probably energised them a little bit. Also, they've got the Hadron Collider. So we don't know what kind of secret science they've been doing.
Is that where they've been training?
Players. I think that's why Granit Xhaka is as he is now, actually.
Well, you put him down there and he spins round and it takes a year off his life.
I'm no scientist, mate, so I wouldn't want to speculate on how they do it, but I do think they're doing something.
I think
you can
Granit
listen to
Xhaka...
my new podcast if you want to...
I'd like you to speculate. I really, really would.
I think Granit Xhaka was the one smashing the protons around it with his
That makes
right
sense,
foot.
yeah.
With his right foot.
Yeah, I mean, they found Shaqiri down there. That's how he started to play.
Exactly, yeah, that's why he's that shape.
Yeah, exactly.
The Minecraft Messi.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what about Dan Ndoye, who's been impressive so far up front for Switzerland? It's reported that he's been monitored by Manchester United.
Never have I heard a first half of a
yep.
sentence full of such joyous news,
Andy,
compounded by a second half of a sentence with such miserable news in it.
Do you know what I hate is when we do a news story during a tournament about a club side.
Yeah.
I don't care who the club
Especially
are.
if
Oh,
it's
no, I
made-
love this. I love this. Because to me, I'm thinking back to USA 94, thinking that Jim Ratcliffe screaming at the TV going, we got to sign Oleg Salenko. We've got to sign Saeed Al-Awairan. Come on, what are you doing, Man United?
Yeah.
Show him a video of Amrabat against France from the World Cup and he'll re-sign it.
The good news is, Jim, he already plays for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Does he really? I haven't noticed him.
Well, Ratcliffe and co have been impressed with his performances, and they know the player because he was playing for Nice for a couple of seasons. I mean, he played
Obviously not that well because he didn't play that much.
530 minutes in total, Andy.
It's a lot of minutes, Andy, whichever way you slice it.
Hey.
You sit there now for 530 minutes, that'll feel like a long time.
Work smart, not hard.
Was he out on loan for the other season?
He was to Basel.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What do we make of him, Andy?
One goal in 32 appearances for Bologna.
Yeah, well, he's not a striker. He's a midfielder, and he's been really good for Bologna.
Do they
this
know
season.
that, by the way?
Oh, probably not. but I think that they know him intimately. Remember?
Okay.
But he's a developing player, and I think the last place you want a developing player to go out to at the moment is Manchester United.
Yeah.
It sounds like very well paid misery to me.
Yeah. On that, you might as well go to the Saudi Pro League as well.
Yeah.
Options, aren't there?
At least there won't be rain to leak through the stadium.
You just get sunburned.
Yeah.
Although the games are usually in the evening.
Yeah.
Now, there is a famous TV tower in Stuttgart. Andy, have you been there?
No.
Have you? They haven't invited you in.
What's the point of having a European guy? Do you know what I mean?
This is like this is a
Andy, I can
flashback
tell
to
you-
university when you do an English degree and everyone goes, "What? There's a book you haven't read."
Have you
Get out.
Have you ever even been to Stuttgart?
Yes.
How many
he has.
times?
Probably about 3 times.
You must have seen it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I've seen it.
Oh, right.
How does it compare to, say, the BT Tower?
Yeah. Similar.
This TV tower. What do you want to know?
Do you honestly expect when you came in this morning we weren't going to ask you about the TV tower in Stuttgart? So that's mega jump by you.
It's piss poor, Andy.
Yeah.
It really is. He can tell you about, I don't know, Shakhtar Donetsk's third choice goalkeeper, but if you talk about TV towers...
Stick him at the top of a TV tower. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, well...
It'll fall off.
Yeah. It could be an Italian spy.
Oh, what?
Because the famous to some TV tower in Stuttgart, where Switzerland are training, and they're not training up the tower, but they're next to it, has been partially closed to protect the Swiss from potential Italian spies. Sky Sport Italia even sent a journalist up there to see what he could see.
Yeah.
I'll do it for you.
They're going to play a back three. We know that.
Yeah, what I felt bad about was when there's a photo from the journalist took from the top of that tower. It's just a security guard up there with a high vis on.
Yeah.
What's his job?
Oh, that's what he wants.
No
you to
one's
think.
allowed up there.
Tell you what, I mean, all this spine. If
He
you
really looks like Alessandro Del Piero as well.
Yeah. But in truth, he's actually a member of
Mossad.
So, Italian World Cup winner Marco Materazzi thinks the Italians will be well placed if they beat Switzerland. If we go through, there can be an open highway, even if they'd better not think about it, or it would become a narrow path. Confusing stuff from Materazzi, but you get the picture.
Basically,
He's a trickster, isn't he? He's trying to get in our heads deliberately there.
What I'm getting from that is that he doesn't seem to have thought at any point about having a problem playing England.
No.
Which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame him.
Was it Materazzi who was weeping when Mourinho left Inter saying, "I can't believe you've left me with Benitez"?
Well, he wasn't saying that. but
Mourinho said he was
crying.
saying that.
Oh, okay,
but,
right.
yeah, there's no way he's
There was a
thinking
photo of them embracing in the car park in the tender way, wasn't there?
Just after, right after the Champions League final.
There's no way the tears are brought on because of Benitez.
Well, did you see what happened
That is,
after?
even for Mourinho, that's mischievous.
That quote is amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Because Materazzi is suggesting that the only way they could possibly lose to England is by thinking about it. Just go on autopilot, you'll be absolutely fine.
We'll get this done. We'll get this done. I don't think Italy can be dismissed, actually, because again, the got a good manager. They know how they're going to play, and the draw does open up. I mean, can Italy beat Switzerland? Yes. Can they beat England? Of course they can. It's all order.
It's the same for everyone, isn't it?
It is the same for
You're going to be
everyone.
better in the fourth game than you will in the first.
Yes,
just
exactly.
by the nature of the time you spend gelling.
Indeed, but they are. In terms of history, in terms of the psyche, the canniest team on that side of the draw, traditionally. Now, will that count for anything? Who knows?
Tell them it's a World Cup game and they won't even qualify.
There you go.
Tell them the Switzerland game's a World Cup qualifier and then England will be playing Switzerland in the next round, who they'll also lose to.
Well, you never know. You never know. Now, if that game tomorrow is not enough for you, you've got another one after that. It's Germany versus Denmark. Now, the German public apparently want Kai Havertz to be dropped for Nicholas Füllkrug, who scored 2, including that stoppage time equaliser against Switzerland last weekend. Were you at that game, Andy?
Yeah, I was.
And
The noise was deafening when the equaliser went in.
Is that right? So they all stayed, did they? They're not leaving early, despite the transport problems.
Do you think there's a chance he will start with the big man?
There's a possibility, but I don't see why Julian Nagelsmann would do that, because using Füllkrug off the bench has been really effective.
Well, he said that,
so
didn't he?
why would you change it?
Füllkrug, it's almost the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sort of stuff. Nagelsmann said he's so good off the bench that actually he's almost talked himself out of a starting position.
When you've got tired defenders who played an hour, and Füllkrug comes on to bash them up.
Yeah,
I mean,
Havertz is very good at occupying those defenders and making
runs
them
and ragged.
tired as well.
And he's capable in the air as well.
Yeah, and he does do a lot of stuff that goes unnoticed. I feel sorry for him going through this again. He's had this whole season. He's on his summer holidays, and everyone's like, "Get rid of him! Get him out!"
But this is what so much of international football comes down to: is likability, is connection with the public. So, in one way, we talked about it at the start of the tournament. Germany didn't just need to win some games, they needed to really enthuse the public by the way they're playing, and they've done that to a certain extent from the Scotland game going onwards. Jamal Musiala has been the forefront of that. Obviously he's adored by the public, but so's Füllkrug, but in a completely different way.
He's a bit of a Vardy character, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like 10 years older. He's really had to fight to get to the top. He's had dreadful injury luck. Didn't make his international debut till he's 29. Played his first Champions League game last season at 30. And he is that, as you say, Jim, that kind of everyman who's grasping the opportunity that everyone who's watching the game would love to have, and would love to think that they would grasp it in that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Havertz is closer to his donkeys, so if he does get dropped, he can just go and hang out with them.
Can you make an argument for Denmark?
I think it's hard.
Yeah,
I think it's hard. I think they've played incredibly poorly so far.
I think you've got to look at the round of 16, and I've said this to you before the group stage, and we saw it happen with one or two teams. One of these big teams is more than likely going to go out, and you've got to fight. It's almost like FA Cup third round weekend. There's going to be one who's going to go.
Germany
not England.
No, you're right. You're right to say that, though.
Germany are capable of beating themselves. That's what we can't overlook. So, like, even though there's more of an public optimism around them, is optimism, it's not euphoria. And there is a difference. Like, bear in mind, that Füllkrug goal right at the end of the game against Switzerland, I think I mentioned it on OTC yesterday, it's the first time, because they topped the group, it earned all the players 50k. And it's the first time that the German FA have had to pay out bonuses to their players since 2017 when they won the Confederations Cup. Now, when you think of Germany as one of the absolute undisputed giants of European football historically, you think in 7 years the FA have had to pay out bonuses to their players. That's absurd, isn't it?
That is quite something.
I think probably only Germany and Spain have done what their sort of nations fans would have expected of them so far. I think you probably discount Portugal, because even with a sort of second team, you probably wouldn't expect them to lose to Georgia. And I wonder if that's evidence of quite how difficult tournament football is, that the expectation of what should be the baseline is too high, and whether those two teams in particular, whether they have a head start or whether it'll level out, it's hard to say. Really.
Well, I think with Spain, the way they've responded, I mean, unconfirmed reports that in their first game, De La Fuente walked in and shoved on the wall those quotes from Andy Brassel pre-tournament and said, "Prove him wrong."
It's not just me; it's the rest of Spain. If you saw that, Ferran Torres.
How do you think Croatia will get on the second round, Andy? Hey, give it to him, Speller.
I don't need to.
Yeah,
Ferran Torres took use of the interview that he had with Sid Lowe to sort of settle scores with the media.
Love it.
Back home.
It's like Bellingham when Bellingham won the Champions League at 20. I've been doubted all my life.
None of them believed in us. None of them believed in us.
Yeah.
And, with Germany and Spain, they're absolutely right. No one back home did believe in them.
Yeah, well, they're bloody believing now, Andy.
Yeah.
They are believing now. Germany do have another challenge, though, going on at these Euros, because their base has been infested with mosquitoes. Mosquito plague, actually, it was described.
That gives you the feeling of winning Euro 2016, doesn't it?
A little bit. I mean, it's quite worrying, really. But if this is the work of maybe our FA, then well played.
Yeah, I mean, they had the bees to contend with before, didn't they?
They did.
So
Remember that? Yeah.
A lot of insects.
But Manuel Neuer did probably the most relatable, down-to-earth quote in response to this you can imagine. We just need to take more care to make sure that mosquito nets are always pulled shut when we're watching the games on the TV by the swimming pool.
I love that he is taking care of the nets, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine with the beehive, you probably just picked it up and launched it
Julian
into the channel.
And also, one thing I find interesting about this as well is Julian Nagelsmann, who seems to have this reputation to be this really kind of amazing character, right? For the age he's at and the thing he's been able to do. I always look at him and think, you seem like a really boring bloke, right? And the quote about this story that he's given is just this: we have an abnormal plague of mosquitoes. We need to make sure there aren't too many mosquitoes around. So, what is that? What is that? Yeah, it's like a fucking robot.
It's interesting because the way he's looked at in Germany is that he's not boring enough.
Right. He ends the quote by saying, and if that isn't the case, we have to go inside into the office.
Oh, no.
I tell you what, if Germany go
Get indoors,
out...
put the shutters down, save yourselves.
If they go out from their home tournament because of mosquito bites, that would be incredible.
I'd be up for it. There we are. You've heard it here first. Now, our Germany. Here's a little. Let's start a conspiracy theory, Jim. Is that how they do it? Is that how people go about it? Let's start a conspiracy theory. Maybe it is.
They always go to Jim first.
I think
Jim signs it off.
All I'm saying is, if Germany gets some decisions which are quite questionable, could it be because Denmark fans unveiled a banner recently that said "fuck UEFA"? They've been fined 10 grand for it. That's silly. Not doing yourselves any favours, lads.
Get a Joey Barton crowdfunder going.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the context is, but I like to think there sort of just isn't one.
Yeah, well, the Danish FA director has said that the important thing is we identify who bought in the banner, and then we will pass the bill on to them. If we find them, they can pay.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
It is quite weird. It's like a weird situation where the Danish FA get fined that amount of money, which is a considerable amount of money.
It is, yeah.
Because the UEFA themselves haven't presumably done the security checks to stop people getting into the stadium with those banners.
It's a lovely old
It's
gig.
not really
It's a lovely gig working for you.
It's not really much the Danish FA can do about that, is there? Their fans are putting a banner together. I mean, what can they do?
But there is probably a department at UEFA, and I'm sure there's one at FIFA as well, where they think about how to monetise shit like this. What a job.
Yeah. There was no trademark in the corner.
I have to say, you do sound like a reform MP, future MP.
Well, we can't possibly bet all our candidates.
Yeah, talking about speed cameras there.
I don't know. Yeah, I would find it funny though if I wouldn't find it. I would find it funny if they give. There's a very questionable decision. Is it going to go to VAR? Oh, remember the banner? No, I don't think we are. I'll teach you bunch of...
I'm sorry, you want UEFA now, do you?
Oh, dear. So, Germany versus Denmark Saturday night. It should be a good... Now, before we go, little Copa America update. That tournament's going on. It's going on in the United States of America. One of the 3 countries that will be hosting the next World Cup, of course. Argentina have won both of their group games, including a win against Chile, or Chile, as some people call it. Argentina fans were seen gathering in Times Square. I mean, they're just taking over the place. This is what they do. But quite brilliantly, a Chile fan paid for a billboard of Alexis Sanchez holding the Copa America trophy when they beat them. And it was just like, we're the current champions. It's like, maybe not for that long, but still, we like a bit of the bants, Andy, do we not?
I can't tell you what a dystopian image that is.
Yes.
Of like all those Argentina fans.
Yep.
If you've been to Times Square, about 50 people dressed up as Elmo and Cookie Monster.
Yeah.
And then Alexis Sanchez
the cowboy
on the
with just his pants on.
Yeah.
That guy. But can you imagine
him as well?
But can
you imagine like a lot of the locals not knowing that there's a football tournament going on, and obviously not knowing, about South American football, Argentina fans. What is happening here? I know you get some crazy stuff, as you say. I knew they're used to it, but even that they might be a bit like, I've got nothing.
But I was reading the other. No, this is really a Pete question. I'm shame he's not here. If it's the screen I'm thinking about in Times Square, it's the one that was unveiled fairly recently, which is the highest resolution big screen in the world. Just like proper, like vivid.
Oh, Sanchez looked great.
Yeah, but how are you getting an HD image powerful enough for that? If you're just a punter, you're an everyday punter, you have to pay for the space on the screen and you have to provide the image.
Maybe it was Alexis himself.
it's more likely to be that than how are you going to find an image that's high res enough just off Google?
Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
It's not.
It's very impressive stuff.
Not a concern of mine.
No, fair.
Another image we saw, talking of the Copa America, Chile drew their first game against Peru, a little bit up against it, but there were some photos that went around on social media of some Chilean people watching their team at their grandfather's wake next to his coffin. So you had the coffin there. It was all very sort of Catholic tradition of the funeral, because the funerals in South America happen like immediately. Yeah, as they do in a lot of countries, probably traditionally due to weather and stuff. But obviously, the game was going on.
But so everyone who's listening to this will have had an experience where it's a big tournament happening in England, and you get the wedding invite through, don't you?
Jim's already had it.
Already done it. It's the same as there's an England game. You're like, what are they going to do? And I think in this case, they can't have made plans for this because they weren't expecting their relative to die. So they're going to have to make the best of it. Yeah. And it's probably what the old fella would have wanted.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of sharing it with him. Like when...
I know what you mean.
When Napoli first won the league under Maradona and someone graffitied the main cemetery on the wall outside, said, "You don't know what you're missing."
Yeah, that's quality. That's great.
He had there were trophies of his from his playing days on his casket. So his name was Grandpa Fenya.
Lovely.
So he was apparently a keen footballer and fan. So
speaking of that, I was telling you guys the other day. I don't know if I told you, Marcus, or even if you remember, when the great Tiggy Rainbow.
Oh, no, you're talking.
Tiggy Rainbow's a bit of a Ramble legend. We used to play football with him at university.
He was a mate of ours.
He's a character. When I was 3 doors down from him in halls of residence in uni, and he had brought all his football trophies up with him.
Of course he had.
And he had put them on the windowsill facing outwards in the window. And he just thought, he was like, yeah, well, people might want to see him. They don't want to see your under 12s. They don't care.
Yeah, he never won one for us.
No, he didn't.
Although maybe that's our fault.
He didn't. He's a good player, though, Tiggy. Played in the FA Vase final at Wembley.
What are you doing?
I'm just saying. Just giving people a bit of context.
I don't think they want it.
Okay. So he could solve the problem and left for England.
Could he? Okay. Politically? I think we both know that's not true. Bielsa's Uruguay beat Bolivia 5-0 last night. Yeah. Come on!
Run yourselves into the ground.
It's perfectly set up for them to get all the way through to the final, lose, of course, and then the next manager that comes in wins the next Copa America, and everyone goes, well, it's Bielsa, he did it.
Yeah. Are you enjoying the little remote control van that carries the ball in the centre circle?
It's not just a little mini transit van. It's got like an Amazon box on the top with the ball in the box.
It's annoying it's branded, but then I suppose they all are.
Otherwise, what would be the point of it? Just someone doing it for fun?
Yeah. That is the point.
Control car purists breaking into international football tournaments.
Do you want any branding on this? No. Hang on. So you're going to pay? Yeah. It would just be a great thing to see.
Do you know I'd have doing it? Craig Charles.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah?
Be nice.
What was the show he did?
Robot Wars.
Jonathan Pearce commentating.
Exactly.
Saying the ball is coming on the pitch.
Yeah, get those Robot Wars perverts. And
I'd love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love the robot hypno disc to come on and just shred the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it would ruin the football, but we'd have it would be a spectacle of sorts.
Yeah.
So I'll play with that.
The other one, just
there you go,
duking it out before the game.
Yeah, England sitting deep.
Pete's idea that it could double as a stretcher, I think, was quite a good one, because it is quite long. It's not like, we've got to clarify if you've not seen it, it's not like the little car that you've had in previous tournaments, is it? And it's more like an articulated lorry.
I mean, it's 2 or 3 feet long at best.
Yeah, it's not going to...
It's not a stretcher.
Yes, you're going to sit on it. Yeah, it probably wouldn't be.
You could perch on it, maybe get both feet on there.
You could get in the box again.
Take it out with Donny.
I won't.
The thing is, if you're hurt, don't you want to curl up in a ball anyway?
Yeah. Okay.
People just pick you up, put you on the van, drive you off on it.
I think they do have stretchers for this reason, though, don't they? So we don't want to put them out of business.
No, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
You don't want AI to be taking yet more jobs.
No.
You're watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.